Hi, Jeremy here, Modern Vitality. In today's video, healing chronic fatigue syndrome, the mind, body, spirit fallacy. I'm going to be exposing this misunderstanding about the mind, body, and spirit because when we look at healing, a lot of times people want to heal holistically, which I get. I'm a huge fan. I've got a lot of years in the trenches doing this kind of work, and I think it's very important. However, one of the things that I've noticed and discovered is that the way we understand mind, body, spirit actually can create more problems than it helps. I know, stick with me. This is going to be super counterintuitive. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this video, but you know what? Let's get started. I'd like to share with you a story of a woman who reached out to me for help with a complex chronic health condition years ago. And she asked a lot of questions about the way I worked, the way I approached things, and she'd been through some of my content, but there were still some things that she wasn't clear on, which, by the way, I'm always making new videos and more stuff. So I've answered a lot of the questions. Most of the questions people have are well answered and well handled, especially on my channel here. Also within my members vault, we have our own chat group. I'm answering questions in there, and I've got a lot of videos that are very profound and comprehensive towards the questions people tend to have. But this was years ago. So she was asking me these questions and I'd answered all her questions. And then she asked me, yeah, but how do you treat the spirit? I understand about how you're doing all these things with the body and the health of the body and how to handle pathogens and all the points that I make, right? All the things I'm always talking about, how to get the immune specificity, going through a 4-stage systematic process, right? Which is kind of unique to have a plan where you go immune, digestive, neuroadrenal, blood circulation, 4 stages in order, following the graduation signs that your body gives you. It's a very systematic way to heal, right? It doesn't leave a lot to chance that way. We have it organized in a way that makes sense. It feels right, which is good. So she had an understanding of all that, right? But then she said, how do you help the spirit? How do you help heal the spirit? Okay. So we're going to come back to this question, because the question she asked me, it became a revelation for me, because what I realized was that the frame she had, the assumptions she was making, were automatically limiting her progress. So we're going to come back to this. Okay. And I get it. Where we have to really start is with conventional medicine and people being treated as just a physical machine, right? You go to conventional medicine, and this, honestly, this isn't a slam against doctors. I've got a lot of friends that are doctors. I've got colleagues that are doctors. I train doctors, right? I work with these people. They're wonderful, wonderful humans for the most part. All the ones I meet they have huge hearts, right? They're very well-intentioned. They're smart. They're caring people. Usually doctors, especially like Western MD type doctors, right? They're more stuck in a system, in a paradigm that doesn't allow them to practice medicine oftentimes the way they would like to, or the way that, could best benefit the patient, right? It's a system problem. It's not necessarily a doctor problem. So when I talk about doctors and the shortcomings, I'm really not picking on doctors, because they're stuck in a system. They don't have a lot of choice and free will, unfortunately, right? So when you go to the doctor, typically they'll have this kind of reductionist lens that they have to put on you, and people start to feel like they're getting treated dehumanized, right? They're getting treated like a machine. And this is one of the pitfalls with that type of medicine, because we have so many chances to actually help someone heal, but we miss those chances because we're just reducing them to mechanical, right? Ignoring the spirit, ignoring the actual human in front of you. And this is the problem that most patients have, especially with complex chronic health conditions, is that they've been kind of jostled through this system, this health system, right? This medical system. And all along the way, there's been no real humanity to it, which I get. I understand. I understand being frustrated with that. I understand being disappointed with that. I'm disappointed with that too. But this is our baseline. This is where we're coming from. And when people talk about mind, body, spirit, when they feel the need to say those things, what they're expressing is automatically in contrast to the conventional, meaning just body, right? So when somebody says, I want to heal, they need to explain that they want to go beyond the physical. I want to heal my whole person, my mind, my body, and my spirit. Okay, which is great. I'm on board with that. I'm not going to argue with that. Not that part, right? I think it's good. And we have to understand what we're comparing it to, right? We're comparing it to just physical medicine, just reductionist, mechanical, industrial medicine. So we have to differentiate. We have to say something like, I need to go beyond that, right? I want holistic healing. Very, very important. And I get it. However, where we get this disconnection is where we forget that adding these things in is only the first step. So when we say physical medicine, which is just the default baseline, right, which didn't used to be, medicine didn't used to be so sterile and stripped down and basically heartless, right? It didn't used to be. That was the 1900s. This is like a 20th century invention, is to just rip the humanity out of medicine. Okay, this isn't the way it used to be. The real way it used to be was very holistic. That's just how it was. You look at culture after culture after culture, there was always components of mind, body, spirit. Always. It was built in. It was default. You didn't have to say it, right? You didn't have to ask your physician, how are you going to help my spirit? Because it wasn't even a conversation you had to have, because it was understood and implied that that was part of the deal, right? So this is a relatively recent stripping of mind and spirit that we now have, but that's the baseline people are coming in with. Okay, so this is something I respect, I understand, and I understand the need to specify it. However, let me take you back to when I was going to Chinese medicine school, right? I've got a heavy background in Eastern medicine, acupuncture, herbs, qigong, breathing exercises, dietary, food therapies, all this stuff. It's a wonderful medical system, right? I love it. There's other medical systems that are also wonderful. This is the one I have the most experience with. This is where all my foundational training was done. And one of the things I noticed when I was in Chinese medicine school is that we had the pendulum swinging both ways, right? So from the Western medicine kind of conventional background, there's almost no recognition of the humanity, right? It's all physical. And then you would get the pendulum swing, and there were a lot of these people that were very, very idealistic that I encountered in school. And they're not just students, right? This is part of the field in general. And it's not just Eastern medicine. It's a lot of holistic medicine, including functional medicine, naturopaths. Like there's a lot of folks that land on this kind of far other side where it's very much about mind and spirit and kind of less concern about the actual physical body. Both of these extremes are missing the point, right? Seriously, we have to integrate all these things, right? The mind, body, and the spirit. We have to integrate these things, which means we have to integrate it, right? I know this sounds obvious, but we have to, in order to integrate it, we have to integrate it. So what I noticed were there are a lot of Eastern medicine folks that were very much interested in treating the spirit, right? Treating the spirit, helping people with their spiritual development, helping people with their kind of their mental landscape. And they would look down on the other people in Chinese medicine who were training for more what you'd consider orthopedic or more physical medicine. So when you think of acupuncture, for example, you might think of shoulder pain, right? Oh yeah, it's good for athletes, good for baseball pitchers, right? They have shoulder pain and we can do something about this. Yeah. And then there are other times you might think of acupuncture and you think, oh, it's good for relaxing and stress and things like that, where it's somebody needs to just lay down and just basically get their whole parasympathetic nervous system just like smoothed out, right? Which is it? Well, it's both actually, as it turns out. But you get these camps, you get professionals who are kind of fighting and going, well, we treat the spirit. So we're not like these, just these mechanics that come in and fix shoulders, right? And then you get the kind of camps of the people who are like, well, this is, I'm actually moving mechanics and helping people get range of motion and things that you can measure and functional stuff back. And I'm not so woo-woo like all these other people who just treat the spirit, right? So I've got to give you this background because I've seen this in my own profession. I've seen it. It's everywhere, especially in holistic medicine. You'll get these camps. And the problem with the camps, the reason why the camps can exist is because there's division, because people say, I want mind, body, and spirit, but they list those as separate things. They think they're making a list of separate things, right? There's no division between the mind, body, and spirit. There is no division. That's the fallacy. Thinking we can divide it is the fallacy. That's where the mistake is. How do I know this? Well, because those orthopedic acupuncturists who treat shoulder pain, right? Yes, they get the pain to go down. Okay? Those people who treat the spirit, yes, they get people to feel calmer and more centered, right? But guess what? That's not the end of it. I once had a conversation with somebody who was very much about, oh, I treat the spirit. It's all about the spirit, spiritual development, and all this. And I said, have you ever had a headache? Have you ever been in pain? Have you ever had an injury that prevents you from doing something you love doing? A physical problem, right? How did that affect your spirit? I mean, come on. You've got somebody, a baseball pitcher, to stick with this example, who loves baseball, loves pitching, and now can't do what they love. How's their spirit? Unaffected? No, they're sad. They're angry. They're pissed. They're worried. They're anxious. And that's normal. The physical and the emotional, spiritual, mental, all that, it's one continuum. They are connected. If you find somebody who has a serious injury that stops them from doing anything that they love doing, and they're not affected by that, they're either lying to you, lying to themselves, or they've got a bigger problem, that there's a disconnection there. These things are the same. The mind, body, and spirit are the same. This is so important to understand. When you look at something like a physical pain, a physical problem, our existence is not compartmentalized. So when this woman was asking me for help, okay, I understand the stages, I understand the process, but how do you treat the spirit? We have to correct that automatically, immediately for her. These are not different things. The spirit auto-corrects. If you have a headache and you're miserable because of the headache and the headache goes away, what happens to the misery? What happens to your spirit, right? Being miserable after that becomes a choice, doesn't it? And there's a whole other level of accountability that we have in terms of treating the spirit then, because if we can take away the physical pain and the physical prods that are causing spiritual ripples and spiritual pain, then shouldn't we start to feel happy again, right? And if we don't, what's going on there? Maybe there's some more things we have to explore. So we have leverage in both areas. This is one of my little issues I take with a lot of the power of positive thinking type of message. Because when people are sick, when you have a complex chronic inflammatory condition that's starting to take over your life and you don't feel good, right? A lot of times morale starts to go down. That's normal. That happens. That happens. And when other people come in and these influencers or whoever with their little chirpy voices and they say, oh, you got to just think positive. You got to think yourself. Yes, there's some truth to that, right? There is the power of positive thought. Of course. Of course. It's just you lose a lot of leverage. If you have a ton of inflammation, you've got pathogens right around your body and everything's inflamed and you're in pain and your brain fog is so bad you can barely focus from one thing to the next. How are you supposed to will yourself better through the power of positive thinking, right? You need to open up leverage with the physical first so that there's not so much pressure on the mind. And then we can expand into that and then we can think positively and then we can take it from there. But what happens, why I get kind of hung up on this and why I talk about this a lot is because I see patients going through this process where they're inflamed. They're just starting out, right? They're inflamed. They got problems everywhere. The symptoms are all over the place. The brain fog, fatigue, exhaustion, weird pains, trouble sleeping, stressed out, neurologically overwhelmed, digestive issues, libido is toast. All this stuff is just eating into every facet of life and creating vicious cycle, right? And then you get some chirpy influencer going, oh, you got to think positive. That's your problem. You got to think positive. Think yourself to help. And they think, well, there must be something wrong with me if I can't muster enough positivity to overcome all this, right? And then that creates more bad morale, more mojo leaking out because we think, oh, well, these people seem happy and healthy and they said I've got to think positive. And I just, no matter what I do, no matter how much gratitude practice, no matter how much journaling, no matter how much manifesting and all this stuff, I just can't seem to move the needle on my health. Right. It's the wrong tool for the job. You got to start with a more physical process first. And then you open some of that up. You get a little healthier inside. And guess what? Now you got more bandwidth and energy for your brain. And now you can actually create positive thoughts that have some muscle behind them. And you can start to do that. And now you get the virtuous cycle going where the body's getting stronger and the mind's getting stronger. Right? And this ideally is they're going to feed each other, right? But I can't stand the implicit shame that comes in. Oh, you got to use the power of positive thinking. You should be thinking positive. Who are you? You don't know, right? You don't know. And I've seen so many people that they're not negative people. They're not bringing it on themselves, right? It's just very hard to muster that positivity. It's very difficult when you really don't feel good. It's really hard. And then somebody telling you that's what you should do makes things worse. So when we look at mind, body, spirit, right? I want to heal my mind, my body, my spirit. You've framed that already in a way where they're disconnected things. And I get it that we're talking about in relationship to Western medicine, conventional medicine, that we need to expand beyond just the body, right? I get it. However, don't limit yourself with your language because your mind is very powerful. And the more you look at those as three separate things, the more you're going to see them as three separate things, when in reality, it's a continuum of experience. We have to understand this. If you're healing and you're looking at something going, yeah, but that's only physical, right? Well, guess what? When the pain goes away, doesn't your spirit feel better? Right? I mean, they are connected. We don't need to make this esoteric and difficult. We can just look at it as a normal thing. This is a normal, natural process. This is very straightforward. This is the kind of thing where you should have a practical understanding of the interconnections between your body and your mind and your spirit. It's one thing. When you make yourself stronger, whether you started in a physical way, a mental way, whatever, your whole self, your whole organism, your whole system gets stronger, including your body, mind, and spirit. So I would encourage you to see this not as three separate things, right? And I get it. Sometimes we start there and we think, okay, well, I want, spiritual healing and all that. A lot of it's a construct. It's a marketing construct. We heal your mind, body, and spirit. It's just a way to stand out in the market. Don't copy that, and don't internalize what health practitioners or the holistic kind of wellness regime thinks is important, because they're automatically delineating it as three separate things when in reality, you're going to heal by integrating them. I've spoken in other videos about what happens spiritually. There's 4 distinct stages of spiritual development that happen incidentally as you go through the stages. As you heal your immune system, your boundaries get better. Who would have thought? As you heal your digestive system, you feel more centered and your sense of self becomes stronger. Interesting. As you heal your neuroadrenals, you start to change your relationship with the past. And it's not so heavy, right? Cutting some of these chains. It just happens. You can nudge it along, which we do. We work on that, nudging it along consciously, going, okay, well, you're in stage 3 now. It's time to start re-looking at the past, right? Because you've already got good boundaries. Your center is strong. So now you can handle that, right? But even without prompts, it'll happen on its own. It'll happen spontaneously. You don't have to plant a seed in the ground and you're trying to grow a flower. You don't have to come over and pull it up every single day and then crank open the petals of the flower to get it to show itself, right? You do it right, it happens on its own. By the way, the 4th stage, blood circulation, is then when people tend to start to have a stronger sense about confidence towards the future. A lot of times with complex chronic health conditions, you have such a hard time projecting out into the future because today is so uncertain, right? So I can't make plans. I can't commit to that. I don't know how I'm going to feel. And all of a sudden we get the confidence coming up because things are feeling better. And then people say, yeah, I've got a future now. I've planned a trip. I'm going to New Zealand for a dream trip. Or I've committed to hosting a party for my daughter's graduation or something. All these little things that most people take for granted of just having certainty in the future. That's actually an earned right and privilege that comes back as we go through these healing processes. And it can come back, and it does. And it's very, very cool. Things like getting a dog, knowing that you have this future commitment where you'll be able to take care of the dog and you'll have the health and vitality to walk it and do what it needs to have a happy dog life, to know you can be there, right? People, if you can't visualize a future because you don't feel good, you will not do those things. So this is the kind of stuff that happens spontaneously when you go through the right kind of process. It's very, very cool to observe. If you're struggling with a complex chronic health condition, you don't have to do it alone. You can be observing this type of growth within our group. You can see other people who are working the program, going through the stages. They're all international, right? From all over the planet. Lovely people, very positive. It's a vibrant community, super supportive. In fact, it's called Modern Vitality Solutions and Support, right? We've got both. We've got solutions, we've got support. It's a great place to be. It's a chat group, right? It's off of big tech. We're not on Facebook or any of that stuff. We've got our own private group where we can have conversations. I can say whatever I need to say unfiltered without fear of censorship and the internet gods coming to deplatform me. It's wonderful. It's a liberating place to be. I would encourage you to join. It's free. There's an application in the description below this video. I keep a link there. And once I see your application, if you look like a good fit for the group, I'll get you in as soon as I can. We keep the group small. There can be a bit of a wait. You might be in on the next monthly cohort, maybe 2 months. I don't know. Depends how many people are in. But I keep it cozy so that I know who I'm talking to. And when you're in there and you've joined and you're asking me questions and I can answer you specifically because I know who you are, because it's a relatively small group, you can ask me anything you want. I've got a vault full of interactive videos that'll help you really put together the pieces on your health and figure out what your next steps are. There's nothing like this. So it's free. I would encourage you to join. And in the meantime, you might consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video. It's good for your mind, body, and your spirit. Oh, wait, that's just one thing. It's good for you, right? You, the human, having a human experience, right? It's a holistic thing. We don't have to separate all this stuff. All right, I hope this helps you. Let's get you feeling better. Cheers.